Clara was on her knees in the dirt, struggling for breath. Her body was broken, bleeding, and exhausted. Her torn white blouse stuck to her skin, soaked with sweat and blood. Dust and tears streaked her face. The hot wind howled across the empty plain, but it could not hide the sound of her sobs. She was only 26, yet in this moment she felt 100 years old. Her ribs ached from boot strikes. Her hip burned where steel had cut her. Every part of her body screamed in pain. Cole and Mason had left her to die. They wanted her land. They wanted to erase her family's name from the frontier. When she refused, when she fought back, they beat her until her body collapsed. They laughed as she fell. They spat on her face before riding away, certain she would never rise again. But Clara had risen. Her legs were weak, but her will was stronger. She staggered across the wilderness, every step stabbing her with pain. The sun scorched her back. The ground tore at her knees. But she refused to stop. She would not let them win. Her mind replayed the nightmare. Cole's hand shoving her into the dirt, Mason's cruel laugh, the sound of her blouse tearing, the crushing fists and boots. She had clawed at their faces until her nails broke and her blood stained their shirts. But they were stronger, 2 men against 1 woman. No one came to help. Every bruise on her body was proof she had not surrendered. Every drop of blood was a sign of her defiance. And yet, alone on that empty plain, hope began to fade. Her head spun. Her vision blurred. Her lips cracked with thirst. Over and over, she whispered, "Not here." "Not like this." Her voice grew weaker. She dropped to the ground, knees sinking into dry grass. Her hands clutched at the torn cloth around her waist, trying to hold on to her dignity. Her breathing was shallow, her body trembling. Through her swollen eye, she gazed at the horizon. Then she saw him. A rider in the distance, a horse racing across the plain. For a moment, she thought the devils had returned to finish her. Her stomach turned to ice. But as the figure drew closer, she saw something she had not expected. Not cruelty, not violence, but concern. The rider stopped. He leapt from his horse and ran to her side. He was older, his face lined from years of work under the sun. His voice was deep and urgent. "Hold on. You're safe now." Clara could not trust so easily. Her lips trembled. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Take the cloth off." Ethan froze. He had seen wounds before, wolves tearing cattle, bullets tearing men, but nothing had prepared him for this. He lifted the tattered fabric from her waist. His jaw tightened, his breath caught in his throat. Her body was covered in bruises, cuts, and burns. Every mark told a story of cruelty. Every scar cried for justice. Clara's eyes locked onto his. She was broken, but her spirit burned bright. She wasn't asking for pity. She was demanding to be believed, thought Fee. Ethan's chest grew heavy as he looked at her wounds. This was not just a fight, this was cruelty. Plain and simple. He pulled a canteen from his saddle and held it to her lips. Clara drank greedily, water spilling down her chin as her shaky hands gripped the metal. Her voice cracked when she finally spoke. "They tried to take everything. My land. My father's land." Ethan's jaw tightened. He had seen men kill for cattle, water, even a single acre of dirt. But this was different. This was a woman beaten down simply for refusing to bow. Clara coughed, her breath uneven. "They said I was nothing, that no law would save me. They wanted me to sign it away. When I refused, they beat me until I couldn't stand." Her eyes glistened, not with weakness, but with a fire that refused to die. "I will never give it to them. Never." Ethan placed a rough hand on her shoulder, careful to avoid her bruises. His voice was steady, though his heart pounded inside his chest. "You're safe now." "I won't let them touch you again." Clara tried to push herself up, wincing in pain. Ethan caught her before she could fall. Even broken and bruised, her spirit was as fierce as the frontier itself. Through clenched teeth, she muttered, "They'll come back for me. They always do." Ethan lifted her onto his horse, steadying her with one arm as he swung up behind her. The sun was setting, painting the horizon in red and gold. It should have been beautiful, but to Ethan it only meant danger. He knew Cole and Mason. Men like that never gave up. Clara leaned against him, her voice barely a whisper. "You don't even know me. Why would you help?" Ethan's eyes narrowed as he guided the horse toward town. "Because no one deserves what they did to you. And because if men like them keep winning, this land isn't worth living in." The horse galloped through tall grass, hooves pounding like war drums. Ethan felt Clara's weight against him, fragile yet unbroken. He thought of the sheriff, of the law, but also of how often the law bent in these parts. Sometimes justice needed a firmer hand. As the lights of the small town flickered in the distance, Ethan knew one thing for certain. He was no longer just helping a stranger. He was stepping into a fight that could cost him everything. But what choice did he have? Ethan guided Clara toward the sheriff's office, hoping the law could protect her. But before they reached it, two figures blocked their path outside the saloon, Cole and Mason. Smug smiles spread across their faces. The street grew silent. Townsfolk backed away, sensing trouble. Ethan had no choice but to push Clara inside, where every eye could witness what was about to unfold. Clara pulled Ethan's coat tighter around her bruises, but her eyes still burned with fire. She would not hide. Ethan was about to step outside when the saloon doors creaked open. Cole and Mason strolled in, smirking like predators. Their eyes found Clara immediately. "Well, look at that," Mason sneered. "The girl's still breathing." Ethan stood, fists clenched, ready to shield her. But before he could, Clara rose to her feet. Her body shook, her legs unsteady, but her eyes locked on the men who had tried to destroy her. Pride forced her upright. "You think I'll bow to you?" she shouted, her voice carrying through the saloon. "You'll never take my land!" Gasps filled the room. She grabbed a half-empty whiskey bottle and hurled it. It smashed against the wall inches from Mason's head. Glass scattered across the floor. The saloon erupted in chaos. Cole lunged, but Ethan met him with a hard punch to the jaw. Chairs toppled, men scrambled. The piano player dove for cover. Mason tried to push forward, but Clara stepped between him and Ethan. Her body trembled with exhaustion, yet her voice was steady. "You'll have to go through me." The room froze. A battered young woman standing tall against two ruthless men. No one laughed now. Even the cowhands muttered, "She's got more fight than most men here." At last, the sheriff stormed in with rifle in hand. Townsfolk spoke up at once, eager to tell what they had seen. Within minutes, Cole and Mason were dragged out, cursing and spitting, but no longer smiling. The noise slowly returned, though every eye stayed on Clara. They had not seen weakness that night. They had seen raw courage. Ethan helped her back to the table, pride burning in his chest. Clara was not just someone to protect. She was someone worth standing beside, no matter the cost. The next day, Cole and Mason were dragged through the dusty street in chains. The whole town gathered to watch, whispers spreading like wildfire. Women clutched their children close. Old men muttered that justice was finally catching up. The sheriff marched them to the courthouse, a small wooden building that smelled of pine and sweat. Inside, benches creaked as townsfolk filled every seat. Ethan sat close to Clara, steadying her when she winced, but her chin was high, her eyes clear. She was bruised but not broken, and everyone could see it. When the judge entered, silence fell. He was an older man with tired eyes, but his voice carried steel. "Cole Mason, you stand accused of assault, attempted theft, and trying to drive this young woman from her rightful land." "How do you plead?" Cole sneered. "Not guilty." Mason smirked beside him, confident as ever. The sheriff stepped forward, his voice loud and certain. "I saw them in the saloon. I saw this girl stand her ground, and I saw Ethan defend her. The whole town saw it." The judge turned to Clara. Her hands trembled as she stood, but her voice was steady. "They tried to break me. They wanted me to give up my father's land. I told them no, and I will keep saying no," the crowd murmured in approval. For the first time, Cole and Mason's smirks faded. Ethan rose to his feet, his voice rough but firm. "I've lived here 55 years. I've seen men fight for cattle, water, gold, but I've never seen a woman fight like this one. If her land means nothing to the law, then what does?" His words struck a chord. The judge leaned back, gavel in hand. His verdict came swift. "Cole Mason, you are guilty. You will face prison for your crimes, and this town will remember your names for what you are. Cowards who prey on the weak." Applause thundered through the small courthouse. Tears welled in Clara's eyes, not from pain, but from relief. For the first time since her nightmare began, she felt safe. Ethan placed a hand on her shoulder. "You're free now. They can't hurt you anymore." Yet as the gavel struck one last time, Clara's heart raced. Justice had been served today. But what would tomorrow bring for a wounded woman and an aging rancher, alone on the wild frontier? When the courthouse emptied and the crowd drifted back to their homes, Clara and Ethan stepped out into the fading light. The sky burned with streaks of orange and gold, the kind of sunset only the West could paint. For the first time in days, Clara took a deep breath without fear pressing on her chest. Ethan walked beside her in silence, his boots crunching against the dirt road. Finally, he spoke. "You stood taller than any man in there today. Don't ever forget that," Clara smiled faintly. Her face was still bruised, but her spirit shone through. "I thought I was alone." "Turns out I wasn't." They reached his horse and paused. Behind them, the town buzzed with life, but out on the horizon lay quiet, endless land. Ethan looked at Clara and saw not just a wounded girl, but a partner in strength. For years, he had believed the West had taken more from him than it ever gave. But in that moment, he realized the land could still offer something: hope. Clara placed a hand on his arm. "You gave me more than safety. You gave me a reason to keep fighting." The weathered rancher felt something stir inside him. It wasn't the fire of youth, but the steady warmth of purpose. He knew life was harsh and cruel, but he also knew it could still surprise you with grace. As they rode out together, the town fading behind them, Clara leaned against him, not from weakness, but from trust. The West was unforgiving, yes, but it was also a place where second chances could grow. And maybe, just maybe, love could rise from the ashes of pain. Their story reminds us of something simple yet powerful. No matter how broken you feel, you can rise again. Even when the world tries to strip away what is yours, you can stand tall and fight back. And sometimes help comes from where you least expect it.